Welcome to Dad Talk Today. Dad Talk Today. The podcast for dads facing some of the toughest moments of their lives. We are here to walk with men through divorce, keep them connected to their kids, help them understand their rights, and work for change in family law courts. Moms, you are always welcome too. We are all about advocating for shared parenting and doing what is best for our kids. Here is your host, Eric Carroll.
Hey everybody, this is Eric Carroll with Dad Talk Today, and I have Darius Mayfield here. What's going on, my man?
Pleasure to meet you, man. I'm doing well. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
So you are running for Congress where now?
Yes, in New Jersey's 12th district.
New Jersey's 12th district, man. It's so good to talk to you. So I heard you know a little bit about the fatherless issue. Could you tell us about it?
Yeah, a little bit. I actually grew up without a father, just my mother and my little sister. My last memory of my father is actually when I was about 3 years old, and I just remember, it's kind of weird to even recall this, but I just remember sitting on the floor and he was yelling at my mother, and that's the last image I have of him, and that's when I was 3 years old, to be honest with you. The funny thing is now, about two and a half years ago, my little sister started talking to him. She found him and actually started talking to him. I have not, but she has.
Well, maybe that's going to take a little bit of time, and that's understandable, but I'm curious, Darius, you know, we hear about what these fathers are going through in family court, and there was kind of a weird trend that was going on back in the day. A lot of fathers did that years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's the exact opposite, but it's still being viewed as that. These fathers are fighting tooth and nail to be with their children inside a family court, but you got the attorneys and all the incentives that's in there for the profit off the destruction, you know, the profit off the destruction of the family, and it's really sad, man.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel knowing that you didn't have your dad, and now these dads are fighting tooth and nail and not getting the chance?
I mean, it makes me feel like, you know, the way they designed the plan, it worked, you know, to be honest with you. As we were talking about before, you know, 60s and 70s, there's a lot of policies put out that basically started to break down the nuclear family. And we even see it with welfare policies, where the mother is pretty much encouraged to not be with the father in order to gain access to the funds she needs to take care of her family. So it's a psychological game that's been played, especially on the black and brown community, but it happens in the white community as well. But particularly in the black and brown community, it's plagued that community, and it's really changed the consciousness and the overall makeup of a lot of the actual community, because people are so entrenched in that now. It's like it's normalcy to them to be without a father, to, you know, belittle a kid's father and, you know, not allow them into their life. Some of them view it as even a game, you know, to not do that. So to speak to your point, it is pretty sad, especially nowadays, because we all have access to a lot more information, and you do find a lot of fathers nowadays, like you said, that are the opposite, that sincerely want to be in their child's life, but sometimes, because in this case the women are so propagated in that way and so used to a certain way, they're opposed to even, you know, bringing that reconciliation and having the father in their life to bring that child a constructive childhood. So it's just sad to watch. It's something that we really need to change, and I'm glad that you guys are shining a light on it, because it really is something that affects the child mentally as they grow up, even if they don't understand it. And that's why we have so many people that you see nowadays that have such angst and anger within our community, and they don't even understand where it comes from. You know, luckily for me, I was fortunate enough to have a huge family outside of just my mother. You know, they had, my grandmother and grandfather had 15 kids. So, you know, even though my father wasn't there, there were, you know, in cases, some male figures in my life that could kind of, you know, subsidize that spot for him. But even with me growing up, I'm a very reflective person. I could look back on it now, and even in the moment, and understand I feel this way because there's something missing, right? There's something there. So I just feel for those kids that go through that same thing, but never really either come to that understanding or don't understand why they actually feel that way.
And you know, so I pretty much tackled you in the hallway, right? And I said, hey, come interview with us. And the thing, in our first conversation, you knew these issues. You were well versed in these issues. And sometimes we speak with legislators and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that. You knew about the policies enacted way back in the day, how they destroyed the nuclear family. So you've now been a candidate for public office. How do you think we can address this from a policy or legislative perspective to sort of encourage families to stay together or increase, you know, dads in the house?
I mean, we can start by, just some of those welfare policies that I was talking about before, where, you incentivize people to keep their families together and to work through things, because that's how you make change. If you incentivize somebody to break up their family in order to get more money, the majority of those people are probably going to break up their families, unfortunately, to get more money. So if we start incentivizing people, and it's almost sad to say that because we shouldn't have to incentivize people to stay with their family, but because we've gone so backwards in that sense, maybe to start to incentivize them and slowly take that away, but just more so encourage people and educate people on why, educate people on, one, the negative effects that have happened because our families have been broken, so broken down. I mean, you see it every day, whether it's the drugs, whether it's the, and I am a big hip hop fan, but whether it's the hip hop culture and, the way certain people talk and the things that they idolize because, they didn't have that male figure in their life to steer them in the right direction. So they're hanging on to the drug dealers in the community. They're hanging on to, the rappers in the community that maybe don't have the best moral compasses at the end of the day. So I think a lot of it, like with everything, comes with education. We need more education within these communities, and somebody like myself, putting somebody like myself in office that's actually dealt with these issues and actually understands it from a real human point of view, and can get down there and talk to these people. I do a lot of work in the inner city. We do cleanups with Scott Pressler and our organization, American Cleanup, in Newark, Philadelphia, a lot of urban cities. So, to take something like that and then go in and just continue to educate people, talk to people, and let them see a shining example. Like, listen, I came from your same circumstances, but here I am. You can do it too. So when people, sometimes, like you were just saying, when you hear lawmakers tell you those things, but they grew up with a silver spoon in their mouth, or, they can't relate to those things, they're not really going to listen to those type of people. But I find somebody like myself that, even though I've ascended to great heights in my life, people understand where I came from. They know my story is real. I'm from the hood, fatherless, I've actually went through that experience. So this is not just somebody talking just to be talking.
Yeah, and we can tell that, man. There's people that try to give us the right answers, and you can tell you're not really talking to someone that's passionate. You got it, man. And that's what I'd like to hear. Darius, we have been going around the country. We got people that are leading a lot of efforts trying to get what's called shared parenting legislation. That if divorce happens, we would rather it not happen. We're at a 55% divorce rate right now. Marriage is important. We've got to learn how to get that back together, but it happens. And if it does happen, that mom and dad should start off equal. They should have equal access and learn to co-parent and try to keep it out of the courts. If there was some legislation that got in there like that and you get into office, would you support that?
Oh, 1,000% I would support that. And, I would work to enhance it and increase it and make sure, sometimes I find that we put these bills forth and, on the surface it seems like it handles a problem, but then it creates other problems in it, or it just doesn't address all the problems in there. So not only would I support legislation like that, I will look at that and make sure it's tackling every single issue, that we're looking to tackle, rather than, putting a bunch of pork in there and handling everything else that doesn't deal with the actual issue. Let's make sure we're handling the issue. That way, when we see the results, we can get a real picture of what's happening, how it's affecting things, is it working, and if it's not, we'll tweak it. But we need to just get back to, getting to the meat of stuff rather than just, looking at things on the surface and just putting stuff out for show.
Well, I think a lot of what's got to do with it, when you get the shared parenting legislation and you get the domestic violence in there that tries to oppose it, and then there's so many incentives that the state gets off of child support and this system that they don't want it to change. Will you fight to make sure that does not happen?
Well, absolutely, man, because listen, at the end of the day, the mom's job is just important as the dad's job. And I know we see a lot of times that things are skewed towards the mother, right? And it's funny to see because nowadays they want to they want to take the titles off everything. You can't call it mom anymore. You can't call it this. But yet, you're pushing everything in this direction towards this one person. Let's take that same psychology and apply it towards legislation like you're talking about, where everybody's well-rounded. Everybody starts off at the same level. Listen, if you're a great daddy, you're a great dad. If you're a great mom, you're a great mom. Too often we find that the laws automatically come down on the side of the mom, and the dad's just kind of left fending for herself and fighting for herself. And I understand, again, it comes from a time where maybe especially in our communities, the dads weren't so involved, but like you said, that's changed a lot. It's changed in my family, it's changed in your families, and all over this country, where dads are stepping up. They want to take care of their responsibilities, so we need to give them a chance to do that.
Darius, tell everybody, if they want to keep up with you, where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me for the campaign at www.dariusmayfieldforamerica.com. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mayfield USA, and on Instagram at Darius for America. That's the number 4.
Number 4, all of the number 4?
No, the website is FOR.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, man, I've interviewed a lot of politicians, and you're the real deal.
Oh, I appreciate that,
You're
man.
the real deal. I want to see you get in there. Guys, make sure it happens, man.
I appreciate that.
So nice to meet you.
You too, man. Pleasure meeting you guys.
All right, everybody, stick around. We'll be right back.
Thank you for joining us tonight. We are fighting for the rights of parents worldwide. If you want to help support our podcast and for us to continue this mission, please join us at patreon.com/DadTalkToday. You will find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, CloutHub, Parler, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Spotify, the podcast app, Google, Apple Podcasts. We're a little bit of everywhere. And guys, every time you like and subscribe, you help us continue this mission. Thank you, and we will see you next time.